Alright folks, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Marshall, also known as Organometallica, and today I'm bringing you a bit of a different kind of deck. I know the last few decks that I've brought on have all been blue-white control decks of some variation, and so I promised that I would play something that was not a blue-white control deck. So what we have today is Edgar Midrange. It's on the controlling end of midrange, which is pretty much the only end of midrange that I'm capable of playing, but it's black-white, Orzhov, and it's a color pairing that got a lot of really great tools in Crimson Vow that I've been really excited to try out. So if you've played the Blood Money deck or the mono black control deck, a lot of the things should be pretty straightforward here. We've got Eye Twitch because it's great value, Shambling Gas for the same reason. It can be a removal spell or a ramp spell that just gums up the board against the creature decks. Professor of Symbology is in the same sort of class where it's not a die trigger, but it's a enter the battlefield learn trigger. It serves a similar function. So you've got Deadly Dispute, no surprises there. Infernal Grasp, it's just a great removal spell. And Meathook Massacre, just being able to sweep the board here. Adding white, again, it gets us the Professor of Symbology, but it also gets us an even better removal spell in Vanishing Verse. Infernal Grasp is great, but and we need one copy of it in the off chance that we face down a multicolored creature. But Vanishing Verse answers all sorts of things. It can deal with monocolored creatures, but it can also remove planeswalkers. It can also remove enchantments like Ranger's Class. It can deal with all sorts of different things, and its flexibility for just 2 mana is hard to understate. Moving up the curve, we get access to Fellstinger. This lets us exploit to sacrifice one of our value creatures early on and then get even more value out of them. We love it. It's basically Deadly Dispute with a 3/2 Death Touching body. Death Touch is not something to scoff at in this deck either. In this format, we have gigantic 4-power trolls. We've got things that are getting powered up with +1/+1 counters all the time. So being able to either overpower them just by being a 3/2 body or not even caring about that because it has Death Touch is really important. It also makes the fight spells like Inscription of Abundance, or if they try to get too early on a Blizzard Brawl and they haven't gotten the indestructible side of it, it makes the fight a lot less effective. And also, let's just take a second to look at this art. This Scorpion is terrifyingly huge, and apparently it's also a zombie. It took me a few looks at this card to realize that this is probably the scariest creature in the set. Like, if I saw this coming at me, I'm done. I'm just done. Next up, we have probably one of my favorite cards from the set, just in general. Path of Peril is a super flexible wrath that I love. You know, we've seen, like, especially the black 3-mana wraths have all sorts of various drawbacks. Like Bontu's Last Reckoning is really effective, but it's you know, not the greatest thing to just replace Damnation because it doesn't let you untap afterward. This card basically says for 3 mana, you get destroy all creatures with mana value 2 or less. That's actually pretty good. Against mono white, that's pretty close to game over. They only have, you know, a small handful of cards that don't get hit by that. Against green, that hits a lot of things. Against the Blood Money decks, that hits most of their tokens and whatnot. It even deals with the egg out of Izzet decks. So it's pretty decent at 3 mana. But when you can cleave it for 4 and a white and a black, so 6 mana total, then you can just straight up destroy all creatures. And so basically, either side of this card is something that I would struggle to put in a deck alone, because the destroy all creatures with mana value 2 or less is just barely too narrow, especially in best of 1, to take up that spot. However, the 4 and a black and a white gets outclassed pretty easily by all of the other wraths we get. Even, you know, things like Doomscar do better than that. But having both of these on one card means that we can do a lot more with it. One of the common variants of this deck that you'll see is a snow version, which runs Blood on the Snow in this spot here. And Blood on the Snow is incredibly powerful, but especially with how abundant mono white is right now, I really love how Path of Peril just really makes our matchup against mono white that much better. Combined with Meathook Massacre to sort of fill in the gaps for things that outskies the 3-mana mode of Path of Peril, it's really easy to sweep the board in this deck. I did think about putting in some copies of Doomscar. Since we do play white, we can do it. I've thought about some of the other white wraths that I'm more familiar with, and what I found is that through playing them, sticking with Path of Peril and Meathook Massacre gives us all the action that we really need, and it lets us have this deck be primarily black mana, and that's really important because it makes our mana a lot smoother, so we don't have to worry about getting double white in order to wrath the board, but all dealing with all sorts of black mana to be able to play our win cons. Moving up, we've got some of the spicy new cards. I'm running 2 Sorin the Mirthless. I think he's, for 4 mana, he's a great value engine. You can plus him to get a card, minus him to get a vampire, and if you somehow stick him long enough, he eventually drains for a whole lot. But just as a way to keep the hand full and create some more dudes that just happen to get pumped by the next card I'm going to talk about, Sorin the Mirthless is pretty good. The other 4-drop is Edgar Charmed GROOM. Now, this card has proven to be the Grindfest dream. And so, despite the pack art on this being just atrocious, the old vampire here with his son Sorin is really, really strong. So, I mean, a 4/4 for 4 is pretty okay. Like, it's fine. It's a vampire lord, so, you know, if you have some vampire tokens on the board, then you get some benefit from that. But the real spice for this is the backside. So if Edgar dies, and it can die through combat, it can die through being sacrificed to Deadly Dispute, to Fellstinger, or any sort of different thing according to that. However it does die, if it goes to the yard, it comes back to the battlefield transformed into the Coffin. And the Coffin gives you a vampire token with lifelink, important, every upkeep. And then at the third upkeep that's been on the board, so untap with it 3 times, you transform it back into Edgar Charmed GROOM, and he becomes a lord for those vampire tokens. And that is actually really great. And for the most part, I actually prefer this card to be on the Coffin side, because just being able to generate extra 1/1s every turn is just super, super helpful, and it helps us draw out the game to the point that it's really hard for us to lose. This card is one of the few legendary creatures that I actually don't mind at all in multiples. If you have an Edgar, it does not prevent you from having the Coffin on the board, and so what you'll find is that the Coffin flips back into Edgar, you get a legend ruled, and then one of them, hopefully the summoning sick one, you then let die and turn back into the Coffin. And so then you've got the Edgar on the battlefield pumping the dudes, and then you've got the Coffin churning them out every turn, and it's just a beautiful arrangement. And I would think that was Magical Christmas Land making that happen, but it's actually happened enough times for me to believe that, it's it's a real line of play. Last but not least, it's hard to play a deck of this type without Lolth. Lolth is really strong. And with that, that's Edgar Midrange, and I'm really excited to give this a go. So I'll see you in the arena. All right, our first opponent. We're up against DB MTG. Good luck. All right, for our first opening hand of the day, this is not amazing. I would have really liked to take a 1-drop here. They've taken a mulligan, so maybe it's worth a shot. The Meathook Massacre makes me feel a little bit better about this. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot. Our opponent mulliganed, so we've got a little bit of hope that we can get ahead just off of that alone. Playing against blue, so actually this is looking a little bit better. We can use Sorin to help hedge the, or we can use Sorin to make things a little bit better for us. It's a bit of a shame that we don't have an earlier play, but we've got removal, we've got death touchy creatures, and we now have Edgar, which is going to be excellent. The blue-red matchup for this deck is dicey without an instant speed removal spell. Just gonna go ahead and say that. So this is not an amazing keep by any means, but I don't necessarily think it's unwinnable. I'm going to drop the Fell Stinger here, and given how important the removal is, I'm going to go ahead and just sacrifice it to itself. Draw 2. Vanishing Verse is going to make our life a lot easier. I'm going to go ahead and discard these two. Oh, don't need to discard them both. I'll discard the Plains since we already have double white. Used to casting Faithful Member, which does require discarding two. We're getting very close to Storm. We're getting really close to Goldspan Dragon time, so I do want to respect that. Don't yet have to worry about this Hall of Storm Giants too much, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop Field of Ruin here and not one of our 4-drop creatures, so I can leave up Vanishing Verse, and if they don't do anything, then I can peg off the Hall of Storm Giants with Field of Ruin. But then playing a turn 4 Hall of Storm Giants, okay, never mind. I was going to say it makes me feel reasonably confident that they've got Goldspan Dragon, but going into Expressive Iteration means that maybe they are just struggling to find land. A little hello while they're thinking about their choices. You know, a little friendly hello. All right, this is actually good. We'll get to see if they play basics. I've been a little surprised at the number of decks, the ladder, that have just not been running basics. So if they do have a blue mana, then they could potentially use this to get into Memory Deluge ahead of schedule. So I'll have to just own that if it turns out to be the case, but doesn't look like it. They did what I do a lot, which is just the sort of get in the habit of tapping the land when it's being Field of Ruin, even if you're not going to use it, just to make sure your opponents don't get complacent. So here they still have blue mana up. Still need to just be ready to deal with the dragon, because the way that we get messed up by an extra turn spell, which they're not quite at, but we just have to deal with it. But if they can keep a Goldspan Dragon on the board, things get a lot worse for us. Right now they're not applying any pressure, so I feel a lot better about sitting back, making sure we can leave up Vanishing Verse when we go into whatever card we do go into. So here the question is, do we want to go Edgar or Sorin? If they've got a removal spell, Edgar is probably the better choice. It's worse if they have a counter spell, because we only get a coffin if it dies on the battlefield. In this case, I'm going to go with Edgar. If they have the most common answers that this deck we're facing would have, it's going to be kill it with damage, in which case that's not a particularly good outcome for them. So forcing them to have... Okay, Divide's not the worst outcome for us. I'm fine with that. Forcing them to deal with it on the stack makes things a little bit more palatable for us. Now they've got a Mascot Exhibition. That's going to be expensive to deal with, but not the end of the world. Having the Meathook Massacre is going to make that a lot less scary. And if they want to tap out for that, it's not really even the end of the world. So, yeah, they're tapping out for mascots. Ooh, okay, that's punishing as heck right there. Unfortunately, we don't have the 7th mana to make this really great, so we could replay Edgar and deal with that. But we can go ahead and just Path of Peril, destroy all creatures 2 or less, and then drop a Ghast, and still have up access to Vanishing Verse and Deadly Dispute, although I do want to save Deadly Dispute to have on the battlefield with Edgar. There are times when if they can find a way to either bounce it, or which is very common for this opponent, or exile it, which you'll see in other matchups. You want to be able to sacrifice Edgar in response to that. So now they've got a Smoldering Egg. That I am going to leave on the battlefield. If they go to flip it, then I'll Vanishing Verse it. But with them just having it out there as an egg, I'm not going to worry about it too much. But I will make them answer Edgar again. They don't have that answer, so we're just going to keep going. No attacks. There's no point to it. I'm not going to pull one over on them. At this point, they have to see that I'm very consistently leaving up 2 mana, and that has to be telling them that I have a removal spell. The real question is whether... Okay, well, they they know now what's going on. So the real question is, do I Vanishing Verse the Smoldering Egg just to make sure I don't lose it? I think that's the answer, because basically the only thing they can't take here is Lolth. Take the egg and just hope for the best here. Okay, they divide it. Oh, they divide the egg. I thought they would divide the Vanishing Verse so they could keep the egg on the battlefield and then dress it, but Introduction to Annihilation is why I kept up Deadly Dispute. So actually right here, they're going to want to take Deadly Dispute, because otherwise I'm just going to invalidate their 5 mana play. And unless they got a land in hand, if they... Oh, they took Sorin. So if they do have an untapped land, I didn't pay attention to whether or not they played a land yet, then they can... Okay, now they can exile Edgar. Which isn't great, but the worst things have happened. The question is that the path that they'll want to go down? Because, you know, I don't know what the rest of their hand is like. I've thought about running more hand attack in this deck. Ooh, they go with Smoldering Egg path. Interesting. So I thought about running more hand attack in this deck, but it just never feels quite worth it. Now this is good because we got another Path of Peril, so that gives us a relatively inexpensive answer to the egg. We can still leave up Deadly Dispute because they are almost certainly reserving Introduction to Annihilation for that. So 3 mana for Path of Peril, drop an Eye Twitch, and do that. Feel good about it. Let's go ahead and poke them. They'll probably block the Shambling Gas and let Edgar through. They're just going to take all 5. All right. Sounds good to me. And here, yeah, actually that's... So we're going to... The Shambling Ghast is going to get us... Shambling Ghast is going to get us a treasure here. So we've got 4 mana. Don't know that really changes what I want to do here. So I'm going to play the Eye Twitch. No reason not to. We can still leave up Deadly Dispute. We don't have a lot of interaction at this point, so we're just kind of hoping that they're playing a really fair game here. Now at this point, they have to see this at the, like, they can't not. All right, never mind, they can't apparently. Actually, that's a fair point. It's an additional cost, so they can't stop me from sacrificing Edgar. But I would have expected them to have some sort of answer.
You
there.
fight for me now.
Bright Climb Pathway on the backside seems good. 7 mana. We're not... I guess leaving up Deadly Dispute here is still not the worst thing in the world. So I'm going to go ahead and poke them. Unfortunately, we're at a point where we don't have a lot of like really amazing answers to anything. Luckily, the spiders that Lolth makes will have reach, so we'll have an answer to Goldspan Dragon. But this isn't an amazing position to be in, if I'm being honest. Drop a Ghast. We've got 2 treasures, so we can still leave up the Deadly Dispute here. But I am pretty close to the point where if they don't let me use it as a trick, I am probably just going to Deadly Dispute for value at the end of turn here. Bloodcheat's Thirst. Unfortunately, not a lot I can do about that. Sorry, Lolth.
I am merely delayed, not defeated.
Here, I'm gonna go ahead and Deadly Dispute, Autopay, sacrifice the Shambling Ghast, replace the treasure. I'm not used to not having counter spells, so I'm just hoping that things go well in the eventuality that they drop a extra turn spell on us. Here, I've just got to start closing out this game, so boot up the Cave of the Frost Dragon and get in with everything. Now this is, I realize now, a needlessly bold move because I didn't leave up anything to block a gold span, but at this point, if they can't just straight up kill me this turn, they're going to have a really hard time getting out of this when they untap. So I feel pretty decent, but I do wish I had left at least one spider back. And there we go. Got our first W in the bag with Edgar Midrange. Alright. Alright. Opponent number 2. Patrick BC. Good luck. Alright. We've got 2 lands and an Eye Twitch. We can potentially use Eye Twitch with the card from the learn board to get our lands back on board, but otherwise this hand doesn't do a ton on its own. I'm on the play, so that's maybe a bit fine. I think if this hand draws one more land, it's pretty darn good, and between Eye Twitch and Deadly Dispute, we've got a pretty good odds of actually doing that, or at least generating some mana, so I'm actually going to keep this. It's a bit bold, it needs some removal, but we can really punish some opponents here. Let's go ahead and say hello. Give him a little wave. Alright, we're against blue. Blue-white. Ooh. Are they playing my game? Alright. They have found the line. So, it's not, you know, we don't know exactly what they're playing yet. But this hand is not great against blue-white control. It's fine, but not great. The fact that they're dropping Field of Ruins so early tells me that they're probably struggling a bit. Shattered Sanctum is great here. I'm going to poke them. That's probably a Doom Scar. So I'm not incredibly worried about that, but we're going to go ahead here and try to just outvalue them. Target player, excellent. Environmental Sciences, and this will help shore things up. Now, I don't really want 2 Paths of Peril against blue-white control, but what can you do? The question is whether or not they're going to fire off their Doomscar here anyway, in which case I will have no qualms about... okay, there we go. I was going to say I have no qualms about firing off Edgar or Sorin here, but we're actually not going to get the opportunity to do that, so there we go. Play Environmental Sciences. Oh, maybe this is saw it coming, they've got suspended. Fateful Absence. Okay. It's a little frustrating, but not the end of the world. Grab a swamp. So now we have a clue here. I'm going to play a Shambling Ghast and a Passenger. Haven't had a really abundant number of opportunities to use this Path of Peril productively, but I'm sure we'll get there. Come on, buddy. You can do this, Patrick. Mysterious Tome. Okay. That I'm not familiar with. Draw a card. 2 mana, tap it, draw a card, transform it. 1 mana, tap target non-land permanent, transform it. That seems fine. I wouldn't be particularly thrilled about it. So the question here is, where do we go? Starts off with just an attack. And so Sorin is a little bit more resistant to... Well, I don't know. So I was going to say Sorin is more resistant to removal by virtue of being a planeswalker, but just dies to Fateful Absence, which they've already demonstrated they run. Edgar doesn't really care about Fateful Absence. Honestly, he's kind of better if he gets hit by it, so like that's fine. Edgar also kind of gets punked a little bit by their Chilling Chronicle, so that's, I mean, it's not really a big liability, but here my expectation is that they've got a Doomscar suspended. If I drop Edgar, they're going to use it. I'm okay with that. So let's do that. Let's give him a little shrug. Sorry, I was thinking. I'm not very smart, so you got to give me time. Now, it's possible that they've got something to exile with here. I'm trying to think of... Okay, Borrow Time is one of those things. But, you know, they would have been able to get Sorin either way, and so we put them to the test. That's fine. Felstinger is a pretty good draw here. So they've got 1 mana open, not enough to use their tome. So I could either drop another Edgar and just kind of make them continue to have it. I could drop Felstinger and get some value off of here. I think there's going to be plenty of opportunities to get value off of the Felstinger later. If I had one more land, I might go that path just since I can Deadly Dispute in response. But I am just going to keep playing Edgars until they run out of answers to them. There is that 2 mana O-Ring effect that is like good against vampires. I think it like prevents them from replaying vampires of the same name if they use it to remove one. And so that would be unfortunate if they happen to be running that. But I haven't seen that really catch on, at least in best of 1. So here's hoping. I think they're deliberating using that Doomscar. That has to be Doomscar. Otherwise they would have countered something if it saw it coming, and like maybe it's Starnheim Unleashed, but that's probably Doomscar, and they're really just debating what to do here. But if you notice, actually, we're both a little short on lands, and that is a much bigger problem for blue-white control than it is for this deck. Teferi, okay, not worried about that at all.
Someone call for a hero?
I need a hero, one who's gonna slow the sunset out. Fortunately, Teferi just doesn't do anything here, really. Get some 1 mana back, and maybe that's a bounce spell, but I'm not worried about that at all. So let's go ahead and see if we can just remove it so they can... I'm honestly, the best thing Teferi can do here is just get them more cards deep, so
We will meet again.
there was no stick there, which tells me they don't have a bounce spell. And so the question here is, now that I've got 5 mana, what do I do? Lolth is probably the highest value play here, but I'm tempted to drop the Felstinger to keep putting on pressure and get the most value out of Shambling Ghast. It lets me leave up Deadly Dispute in case they have another Borrowed Time for Edgar. That feels like the best play here, honestly. And I will draw 2. Just keep, get more treasure, keep the pressure on. I think that this is a decent spot to be in. Honestly, if they got Teferi here, that tells me that they're running the Twiddle version of this deck, which I've never been particularly impressed by. That's just me. It's the Twiddle version runs the Strixhaven Stadium as a win con. They might not be doing that, but generally speaking, blue-white control especially with things like Mysterious Tome and stuff like that. I haven't seen it run blue. I haven't seen blue-white control run Teferi unless it's trying to cheese out a win with that card there. So they've got the Chilling Chronicle online. That's not going to help them just yet. Having an extra Edgar is actually surprisingly useful. I've mentioned it in the deck tech, but having one on the creature side and one on the coffin side is surprisingly useful. For now, let's go ahead and smack them for 7. Curious to see what they suspended there. Is it another Wrath? Is it something else? I don't know. I kind of want to leave up the Dispute still, but I also want to get down Lolth. I could also just start pulling that trick with Edgar and start getting extra vampires. That sounds pretty decent, but if they've got a Wrath, then that play gets lower value. If their answer is a Wrath, Lolth is my best play here, and with the treasure, that means I still have Deadly Dispute up. So I'm just gonna do that. Doesn't need as much deliberation as I'm giving it. Fell Stinger will make that useful. So there's their Wrath, and so it's kind of annoying, but fine. Puts a bunch of counters on Lolth, so I'll get my spiders back pretty much immediately. Edgar's going to turn into a coffin.
Subservience will. I will.
That's just fine.
Do what I demand.
Yep, when they're reading the coffin. Yep, it does things. You can tap it if you want. Does not matter at all. Fortunately, I can't Deadly Dispute here because I need the mana from the, even though it has it highlighted, I need the mana from the treasure in order to cast it. So if I go to try to resolve it, it'll give me trouble about it. So here they're back to 1 mana. The question now is, do I try the double Edgar Madness, or do I go for another Walker? I think with Lolth it's pretty easy here. Break 2 spiders, and I think leaving up Sorin here, or playing Sorin, is going to be a little bit higher value play. It's going to incentivize them to split up their answers, because it's just more things and more axes. Sorin's tokens do get pumped by Edgar, so that seems good to me.
You deal this annoyance.
And I'm going to play an Eye Twitch, because on the off chance that they do Wrath again, which seems pretty realistic, this could be seen as overextending, but it puts another counter on Lolth, and it'll also get us something from our sideboard, which is not to be underestimated. I have to keep remembering that I have a camera on now, so y'all can see me deliberating this stuff, rubbing my little hands together. I'm going to see if the YouTube audience is as offended by my visage as I am. Devastating Mastery. Alright, that's a bummer. But they played the student cost, so that's actually not bad here. Worse things have happened. So don't let that resolve. I've got another Edgar, so I'm not too worried about that. Here, this is tough. So I'm going to pick up Sorin, because I don't have another Sorin. I do have another Lolth, and I do have another Edgar, so the question is what I do there. I think the upside of having 2 Edgars is actually higher than having 2 Lolths. So
Pity our time is over.
And actually, I didn't even realize that I was going to get my other Edgar back, so I'm going to grab an Ascot Exhibition, because I want to have as many answers as possible. So I think that was probably a misplay on their part, because I didn't realize I was going to get my Edgar back. Okay, they've got a Fading Hope here too, so never mind. Maybe they saw it. But I certainly didn't realize that that was going to be the case. I have a lot of cards in hand. I'm going to drop an Edgar. If they want to Wrath again, Edgar gets someone better every time you do it. If they try to exile it, I've got Deadly Dispute. I'm not worried at all. Path of Peril. Path of Peril is good if they've got Hullbreaker Horror, which is not unreasonable to expect from them. So I don't know. I think the answer is Meathook, Massacre, Path of Peril. Keep one path, just in that case, but right now I don't think it's worth being too worried about. But if they're actually running Epiphanies, which would be a really weird look for this deck, they're basically there now. So, oof. I'd like to get another land, full stop. But getting a creature land would be really great. Getting, getting a Field of Ruin to start a challenge these Hall of Storm Giants. I'm not really sure where all my landy boys are at. Main phase Memory Deluge. They're ramping towards something, that's for sure. Cool. So this is weird. These are both exiled, and yet somehow it's split them up in a bizarre way. So don't know what that's all about. So they haven't really challenged us with a counterspell this entire game, so I'm still a little unsure of what to expect, but I think here I still want to leave up 2 mana, so I think Sorin lets us do that the best, and I can try to draw a card. There's a Saw coming. Okay, interesting. And that one was from hand, so fine. I lose my Sorin. That's not the worst thing in the world, but like it would have been great to keep it, obviously. I guess all of their counter spells were just in the bottom 2/3 of their deck. I know that feeling though, so like that's it's unclear in a lot of these blue-white decks how many counter spells is correct, and so it's not made any easier by the it's not made any easier by how many options you have and like how much pressure you're on. So I wouldn't be shocked if they're only running 4 Saw Coming, but my advice to blue-white players out there is if you're running Saw Coming, especially as your sole counterspell, stop. Go with Wash Away. Wash Away has been so much higher EV in this format where we have Foretell and we have Flashback. It's just better. So here, I am going to try and bait out one of these Halls, because I don't care if Edgar dies. If Edgar dies, he turns into a value engine, which is great. So they're going to turn on Hall of Storm Giants, and they're going to think that they punked me. And if they turn on Hall of Storm Giants, then Path of Peril kills it for free. Not for free, but for considerably less than they have to invest into it in order to in the first place. So they're going to have to think very carefully about whether or not this 4-life is really useful for them. Alright, Divide. Interesting. I don't really feel like replaying this, so I'm going to go ahead and deal with this now. I don't want them going to their sideboard and getting Mascot Exhibition. I'd like to draw cards and get treasure tokens, so all of this is kind of consistent with that. And the question is, what do I do with my remaining 5 mana now? 6, because I drew a land in that. So I've got 6 mana to use. I think I want to... Yes, I just counted that card. 6 mana. Drop another Edgar. I'm so flooded with Edgars at this point that I am not at all worried about having multiple copies. And then I can play out some Shambling Gas, just give them a situation where if they want to Wrath me or if they want to attack him, if they want to Wrath me, I get a ton of value. And if they want to attack in with these Halls of the Storm Giants, they're going to just have trouble getting the damage through. I don't necessarily know that I'm in the driver's seat yet, but our opponent has not yet turned the corner. I'll feel much more in the driver's seat. Okay, there's a Doomscar. So this is not the end of the world. It's kind of makes the double Edgar thing a little bit less great because having the 2 coffins just puts to the yard, but we have yet another Edgar in hand. Not at all worried. Now we get a dude. Land. Now we're flooded, but just not with the lands we want. They're representing 5 mana. And if they're still looking to jam removal spells, I'm going to go ahead and... So the question is, do I do Mascot Exposition or do I do Lolth? I have enough mana that I can do a double spell here. So I'm going to present them Edgar first, see if they counter it. There's a stick, so that's not the stick from the Memory Deluge, so it's... Oh, they're thinking. Okay, there's their counter spell. If they're going to counter something, that's fine. But now Lolth is going to come in and make their... This what has to be... Oh no, it's in their hand, so I was going to say it has to be another wrath, but... it's going to make a wrath a lot less effective off the top.
We will slay our enemies.
Okay, Fading Hope is a decent enough answer to that. Do they go top or bottom? They keep it on top, so... Is it a... Fate Blast? No. Main Phase Memory Deluge. Interesting. I mean, at this point... Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling pretty good about where we're at.
You fight for me now.
Let's go and draw a card.
Go, my children.
Meathook is not especially great here. So you've got access to 9 mana. I think I'm just going to... well, first I'm going to attack with my 2 guys. Get that out of the way before I miss something there. Cast Mascots. This gets a little worse if they have a Wrath, but, you know, we'll deal with it. Next turn, Edgar's back. I can Deadly Dispute to start drawing some extra cards. If they do Wrath here, with anything but Devastating Mastery. Okay, so here I'm going to try to get a little bit of value off of some of these guys. So, actually, just in case they... There's a world where they divide their own Wrath because they see me sacrifice the big thing. It's unlikely, but it's possible. But here I'll try to go ahead and draw a couple cards because I need to keep the pressure on. The Doomscar isn't amazing because of Lolth getting its counters back, but it does set me back.
My will cannot be denied.
So Eddie's back, and
me well.
he is hasty. So we're gonna go ahead and try to attack. And now here, let me read this. So whenever a creature I control die, each opponent loses 1 life. So I am going to... Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play Professor of Symbology. Just want to see if I can bait something out of them. Because there's a world where I just Meathook Massacre and kill them. But the fact that they've got stick here, I want them to try to get worried and feel like they have to do exactly this. Because now they're tapped out. And now I kill them. I'm going to discard 2 cards. Come on, buddy. You can do it. It doesn't matter what you discard. You're going to die. And you learn mascots. And it doesn't matter. So, X1, autopay. Bada bing, bada bing. And good game, Patrick. All right, next opponent up, we've got Stray Sheep. Let's do this, Stray Sheep. A lot of people using the same avatar as me today, so that's something. In this case, this hand is not amazing if our opponent's on control. They've already taken a mulligan, so that makes me feel better about it. But if our opponent's on an aggressive strategy, then this hand rocks. I feel real good about where we're at if that's the case. I only just got up to the diamond meta today, so I don't actually know what decks are all super common at this particular tier. But so far it seems to at least be somewhat more interesting than it was at Platinum. Kazandu Valley is mono green. We're in decent shape. Path of Peril isn't quite as good against them as it is against mono white because things like, you know, the Mammoth and the Troll escape the 3-mana version. But they've got enough things that we can peg off, especially if they're running this version here. So they've got enough things to peg off that we'll end up doing okay. Here, I'm just, you know, leaving 1 point of damage on the table might come back to haunt me later. But leaving up a blocker here is fine, because if they want to attack into the eye twitch, I'll take that all day, every day. Because now I get to come to the learn board, and I'm actually doing okay on lands, all things considered. That's not too big of a problem. But I'm going to grab Necrotic Fumes, because having a way to exile a troll is pretty decent. And there's our troll. So, cool. So they got that clock pretty quick. Path of Peril is not going to do a whole lot here, so I don't think I sit on that. The one downside of that block, and I mean, it's kind of, you know, a self-fulfilling prophecy, is a Necrotic Fume does require me to have a creature to get rid of there for it. But, you know, let's see what happens. So the play here, I think I just got to take a beating, unfortunately. Getting Edgar down next turn will be better. And eventually we'll be able to use this Path of Peril on the full-size mode and it'll be fine. But for now, we're just going to take a big beat, and I have to kind of accept that they lined up their threats a little bit better than expected against what we have here. But this isn't over yet. I still feel pretty good about where we're at, if I'm being honest. So, Shattered Sanctum. Edgar's not going to be amazing here, but it can buy us some time. I don't want to use Edgar to fuel Necrotic Fumes, because then he won't come back in his coffin. But even chunk blocking with Edgar here ain't bad, because then he pulls the coffin. I can use Necrotic Fumes with the Vampire from the other side. Like, don't get me wrong, this is not an amazing situation to be in, but it could be a lot worse. So do that. They're probably deeply confused. I get my coffin, and now this 1/1 becomes a way to answer the old growth troll more easily. Now there is, and you have to do it as exile as a cost, so they can't use the Inscription of Abundance to get around this either. So target old growth troll, exile the token, and now, I mean, we're still in rough shape. This is still not amazing by any stretch of the imagination, but it's okay. We're gonna get there. Them turning on this Faceless Haven rather, is going to hurt quite a lot. And our odds of winning are not amazingly high, but Edgar looping is going to be decent here. And we've got 2 Fields of Ruin, so this Faceless Haven is only going to be challenge for so much longer. Ooh, too long. Too long. Alright, Vanishing Verse is decent here.
I'm busy.
So, I think what happens here is I Path of Peril and leave up Field of Ruin. I want to specifically do that side of things. And then if for some reason they have something else that they try to kill with, then about Vanishing Verse. Everything in their deck is monocolored except for Faceless Haven, so it's a nice clean answer. And so this... it's getting closer to being okay. The Meathook Massacre is going to tidy things up. Werewolf Pack Leader is not the scariest. They're going to try to get in like so. And kill it. So I don't need to answer the Werewolf Pack Leader this turn. It's summoning sick. We're fine. I am a little... oh no, I'm fine on white mana, so I'll go to Swamp. And Eddie's gonna flip back over, and honestly, I don't even mind using Edgar just as a chump blocker against this werewolf. 2 werewolves is a different story, though.
You will serve me well.
There we go. So, now, how do we want to handle this? So it would be 5 mana to wipe both werewolves. The ranger class doesn't do anything if they're on the defense, so that's not a big deal. That gave me 2 life. Yeah, that plays fine, and yeah, that's fine. So I need X3 auto pay. Leave up Edgar as a blocker. Ends up being relevant at all, and now I've still got Vanishing Verse up, so feel pretty decent. I said I was going to leave Edgar as a blocker, but I don't think that they have anything hasty except maybe the Moose, and if it's the Moose, then I've got Vanishing Verse, so it's okay. Alright, cool. Now, it is tempting to go ahead and exile the Ranger class while I have the opportunity, but in this case, it doesn't do anything if they have an empty board, so there's just not a lot of point. Sorin is going to get me a vampire that gets pumped by Edgar. That feels great.
Bring my own.
And so, unfortunately, Sorin's draw ability isn't going to do a whole lot from us, so just starting off by dumping a vampire on the board is the right call there. If I had more life, I'd be tempted to draw a card, but the question of who has more life isn't going to be relevant because they scoop it up. Good game, Stray Sheep. Alright, next opponent up. Crazy Knight. So crazy they forgot their A. Ooh, maybe there's something about that. Alright, this hand is something else. We can cast everything in it and potentially draw a lot of cards. It doesn't do a whole lot else, though. You know, but that being said, it's not the only place where this becomes really problematic is if our opponent is on blue-red. Okay, let's get it go. You can only draw more answers from here, right? They're on white. Which white are they on? Are they on mono white, or is this something else? There's a big removal spell. I like it. I'm going to drop Shambling Ghast if they have Thalia. This ends up being useful. If they have Thalia, it's going to make Deadly Dispute not great, but green-white. Okay. I think this is probably the Lifegain deck then, so... Let's see. Portable Hole. Nah, that's not the answer I wanted to see out there. Come on. Professor of Symbology would be great if I had white mana. But it's fine. Now I get 2 Eye Twitches. Briar Bitch Tracker. This card I think is underrated in a lot of cases. Like, it comes out as a 4/3. It gives you some card advantage. There's a lot to love about it. There would be even more to love about it if I could easily kill it. But we'll get there. No worries. We've got a Deadly Dispute. I want to threaten a block that kills the Briarbridge Tracker, so I'm not going to attack here. Realistically, I don't know if they end up having to worry about attacking into this. Roiling Regrowth. I have not seen that card played in Standard yet. Sacrifice a land, search your library for up to 2 basic lands, put them in the battlefield, tap and shuffle. Alright, fine. That seems okay. I feel like there's better cards to have in your deck, but hey, it's not my deck, so what do I know? So here, they've actually given me that option to triple block and kill it. I think I need to use this Deadly Dispute more, so that is what I'm going to do here. Get to learn, which gives me environmental sciences. Cool. Alright. This is a lot of the things I wanted, so I'm feeling pretty good here. So I played a land. I can environmental science, get myself another plains, and then I tapped my Auto Tapper. I was hoping to save this white mana so that I could drop the Professor of Symbology, but it tapped it for no obvious reason. That makes me a little bit less likely to want to use it. So rough. I could still do it, but I have to use my treasure. Let's see. I can. Alright, I can Meathook Massacre next turn anyway, so I'm just gonna use it. Auto pay. I'm mad at the tapper for that. I should have manually tapped, but whatever. There's only so much you can do. I'm actually doing okay on lands now, so I'm going to grab a Necrotic Fumes, so that I can potentially answer something bigger. You know, if they have more nasty stuff, then it's good. Why are they doing this main phase too? Like, they don't need to do this on their turn. Yeah. Anyway, so here, now I think I do the block like so. Like, there's not a lot of problems with this. And if they actually, instead of the Eye Twitch, I'm gonna use Shambling Ghast. If they try to, well, if they pump with Snakes and Veil, it's not gonna matter. But either way, if they, when they kill a Shambling Ghast, whether or not I succeed in killing the Briarbridge Tracker, I'll be able to kill the Prosperous Innkeeper, and that's probably good enough. There's a non-trivial number of players that just like forget that double blocking is a thing. So I don't know if that's what happened here or what, but I will happily snipe that Prosperous Innkeeper. And my opponent has ramped like crazy, so I don't know if their endgame is like Renin 6 or whatnot. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Faithful Absence my... yeah, my Dork, that's fine. I've got 2 lands in hand. I think I get Mascots. I want to start getting to the point where I can finish this game, and we're getting closer. We have almost enough lands to cast it already. I get into combat, I poke him for 1, and then this Fell Stinger is just straight gas. Target me. Yay. Get environmental science with this one, because this will answer the question of how do I get to Mascot Exhibition. So that was a pretty good upgrade on that. Storm the Festival. Oof. Alright. Really depends on what they get from here, about how scared I'll end up being. It's been a while since I've seen a Storm the Festival deck, if I'm being completely honest. That was not a bad Storm of the Festival at all. So I think what I do here is I do the easiest, well, second easiest hook of the day. The easiest hook of the day was when I used to kill the person earlier, but this one to just go ahead and slurp up half of their 7 mana spell. Yeah, 6 mana spell. Anyway, good game, Crazy Knight. On to the next one. Alright, Grand Funk. Let's do this. I don't know if it's only pairing me with people with this particular avatar or what, but I've seen a lot of them. This hand is pretty darn good. I wish it had a Deadly Dispute instead of the Sorin, but with 2 very flexible removal spells and a 1-drop, there's not a lot to complain about here. The lands even, like, they line up pretty well. I'm happy. Monk of the Open Hand. Alright. Let's play the game of how quickly can I get to a Path of Peril. Luckily I've got plenty of removal, so that removal just got a lot harder to cast. Then there's my Path of Peril, but I still will need to get to the mana. But I mean, honestly, worse things have happened. Paladin class, fine. CGB posted about this deck recently, the one with Hopeful Initiate, and now it's the only thing I see mono white players playing on ladder, so that's rough. All of these sideboard cards are a lot harder to justify when they cost so much extra, but what are you gonna do? I could Infernal Grass now. On their turn, everything's even more expensive somehow, but Infernal Grass will maybe take some of the pain off. So I'm going to be taking 2 damage from Thalia anyway, so I may as well just kill her off. This gets bad if they have another Thalia in hand, which of course they do. But luckily I can Wrath next turn, and even though this turn hurts, we'll be okay. So here I'm going to drop this black since I already have double white. And yeah, so this is where Path of Peril just looks so good. They're going to hit me with the Faceless Haven, and that's going to be not great. But then I can hopefully drop Lolth. Oh, no, I can't drop Lolth next turn, but I can buy some time with Sorin. But Faceless Haven, oh, well, there we go. We've got Field of Ruin, so we're doing all right. Since I got Field of Ruin, I'm going to specifically do Environmental Sciences, get some extra life, get another land, so that way this can get a little bit better. If they don't power up the Faceless Haven, I might just snipe off this Paladin class. They are going to do exactly that, though, so I'll take them at their word. Let's do it. This tells me that they really don't have a ton going on in their hand, because, like, well, they've got a Thalia, so they got something. So we got 6 mana. It will not take a whole lot to kill that Thalia, so it'll take 4. Yeah, it's still Thalia. I love Thalia so much. Don't get me wrong, I really do. But she's a pain in the butt. She's a pain in the butt to play against. So we'll X1. At this point, they've now gone through 3 Thalias, though, so hopefully we're getting through it. I am going to save this Vanishing Verse. This Paladin class, I kind of wanted them to invest more mana into it, I guess, maybe, but it's not doing a ton right now anyway. So Hopeful Initiate's not too bad. The question here is, do I drop Lolth or do I drop Sorin? I have 7 mana, so Sorin lets me leave up Vanishing Verse on their turn, so I think that's the play. I'll make myself a little dude, which maybe they have an answer for, but at least now I can start having some counterplay on their turn. The creatures control get +1/+1. If that's the way they're going to do it, then I'm going to go ahead and Vanishing Verse that. Boom. It's possible I have another, but now they've taken a lot of time to make that big and fat. Hopeful Initiate. It's not big enough yet, so that's fine. Let's plus Sorin. I will take the land for free. Why not? And we are on mono Lolth, so let's go ahead and make some spiders.
We will slay.
I'm gonna hold off on the attack right now. I wanna get us. Ooh, double Luminarch. Oh yeah. Okay, so double Luminarch's gonna make life challenging because now I have to chunk block instead of just swinging for the fences. Okay, they're coming at me directly. Doesn't have trample. That's fine. This is not the worst possible outcome, but it's not great.
I will call the weak.
Edgar is a good pull there. I'm gonna plus, well, 0 Lolth land. Fine.
I'll tell you a secret.
Make a vamp with Sorin, and then drop
You can deal with
Edgar.
my servant.
Now, if they've got a another exile creature effect, then that's not great. I could play another Lolth and get some more dudes. That's not bad, because I can't turn on the Frost Dragon anyway, so to heck with it. Let's get another Lolth, get some more spiders, make it really hard for them.
You could
to
have
attack
such
in.
power, but you are, and I, the generous one.
Monk of the Open Hand is not going to do it, and they scoop it up! Yes! The game was ultimately get to Path of Peril, and then have some celebratory dances anyway. But yeah, with this, their top decks were not going to be as good as my top decks, especially with me drawing 3 a turn. It's pretty good. Alright, good game, Grand Funk. Alright, we've won 5 games in a row. Now we're on to Tessaboni to see if we can get our 6 in a row and rank up in perfect succession. And this hand is not set up to make that happen. Holy mackerel. That is a mulligan. Luckily our opponent mulligan too, so that's a little better, but yikes. I don't mind this hand at all. I wish I could keep all 7 of them, but this is a good 6-land hand. The question is, do we keep 2 learn dudes or 2 removal spells? We can't cast either of these at the moment, but Eye Twitch and the Professor will help us get there. I think the Professor's Symbology is our weakest card in the hand, so I might regret this because it takes away my turn 2 play, but actually that's a good point. Alright, in that case, I think I take the Meathook Massacre and put it on bottom. This feels a little bit better because now at least I have a 1-2 turn 1, turn 2, turn 3 potentially. But yeah, I don't know what the right answer was there, but against mono white, having more butts on the field is going to be useful. Lolth is a good draw there, but we are a long ways off casting it, so don't know. Salmon there. Okay, they have the portable hole. That's less great, but it's fine. We got the Professor now, so I'm glad we kept the Professor because now I can get environmental sciences and boot up the Path of Peril, which is going to really, really make this great. And I will snap off that block in a second. Don't need to ask me twice. Environmental sciences, playing. I want to see. I always have this belief that I can make people get like unusually aggressive with their creature lands if I like hide my Field of Ruin. And in reality, I don't think it actually affects the lines of play at all. But I don't know. Hiding the Field of Ruin. Oh no, no, Spellbinder, no. All right. Well, Path of Peril is still good on 5. It would have been even better on 3. Well, shucks. This is where the not having the double black in the opening hand was rough. But anyway, as I was saying, I sandbagged my Field of Ruins for no obvious reason. And I don't think I was punished for that here, but having a Field of Ruin instead of Swamp there was rough. Let's just leave it at that. But it's fine. We got there. We took a lot of damage. Oh, it doesn't kill the Spellbinder, of course. That's okay. We're going to take some more pain. But we've got spiders coming. So, and the spiders do have reach. So we're fine. Fine. And believe me when I say we're fine.
Reek with terror. My will cannot be denied.
Skyclave Apparition does not hit tokens or 5 CMC things, so our opponent is probably quite sad. There we go. Alright. Now I'm feeling pretty good. Draw card, lose life. Ooh, Path of Peril there does nothing on this board. What am I doing? Alright, gotta read Valkmir again. So, if I target them or one of their creatures, I have to pay an extra mana. Gotta remember that. And then everything gets a little bit less damaging. So that's fine. Play up the Shambling Ghast. It won't deal damage, but it'll be fine. Excuse me. And then here, I'm just going to sit on Deadly Dispute and Field of Ruin. And not attack. Skyclave. Alright, make them target. And I'll get some value from that. It's still Field of Ruin. So feel good here. I will -1/-1 the Spellbinder. And I do have to pay the extra mana, so now I can't Field of Ruin, but their Faceless Haven's tapped anyway, so it's fine. Oh, I can't actually Field of Ruin still, so we're good. We're good, everybody. Don't you worry. And pretty soon, we'll actually be able to Path of Peril with Cleave, which will be good. What you doing there, buddy? Past the blockers. I'll double block there. Why not?
Subservience will be a reward.
Let's see. So that has me on 7. I've got another land at hand, so this is maybe a little atypical, but I will. Oh, stop! You're going me. Oh, that's so rude. Oh my gosh, Valkmira. I just stripped mine myself so bad. Okay, that's fine. Stop it. Just stop it. I'm not taking that long.
I will get what I want.
This is fine. Opponent is about to get muted for bad manners, and they scoop it up anyway. There we go. 6 for 6. Making mono white just rage quit toward the end there. Doesn't get much better than that. All right. I wasn't taking that long to play. They gotta just calm down. We're fine. Rank up. Heck yes. All right, and we are back with the wrap up. That was a great series of games. Cannot complain about that at all. We played 6 games and won all 6 of them. That was just back-to-back-to-back wins against a lot of real decks in the format too. Like, you know, there was that one green-white aggro deck that was a little, you know, questionable about what it was doing, and then there was that rogue blue-white deck. But otherwise, we played what looked to be pretty tiered versions of mono green. We played mono white twice. We got against blue red. And in all of those cases, we just handily won it. It's really easy to just stall out the game until you get to the point where you've got so many bodies going on here that, you know, it's just hopeless for the opponent. We saw our mono white opponent at the end of the last game where realistically they weren't that far behind in the grand scheme of things. They were going to be when we wrathed them, but they ended up just rage quitting at the end there as we played a second Lolth and just had a bunch of little guys. So if they want to play little white weenies, we can play little black and white weenies and do just fine. I did reward myself with the less atrocious looking art for Edgar Charmed Groom. I really just don't like the pack art. For some reason, it just looks so dopey, but the Fang art looks really cool. You know, I don't know how many decks I'll play with Edgar, but he was an MVP today. In the games where he came out, he was producing a really strong body that the decks just had to wreck with. Like a 4/4 is surprisingly good in this format. There are so many cards that just can't attack into it from mono white. The things in mono green have to respect it because it can trade favorably. And Edgar is kind of like the old growth troll in that, like, if it dies, it just comes back. But the cool thing about Edgar is that while he's in the off-board mode, he keeps producing value in a way that honestly is better even than the front side. And then when he comes back, it's just a beating. And so we saw opponents having to, like, you know, just take time out of their way to deal with Edgar, and the fact that multiples of them are anywhere from okay to excellent. And so if you're able to start chaining them into one another while you have Edgar on the board and the coffin ticking up, it's just so good. It's really hard to complain about how Edgar performed in this deck, and as a sort of grindy mid-range piece, it really held its own. I was way happier with Sorin than I expected to be. Being able to come down on 4, leave up a bunch of mana, and drop a 2/3 vampire that sometimes became a 3/4 if Edgar happened to be around, was really great. The +1 is a bit tougher in aggro matches, because if you don't, see a land, then you kind of just have to leave it there. But against the more controlling decks, or the decks where we had a little bit more of a lead, you could call it win more, but at the end of the day, it was just really solid value. So I am not sad about that in any way. I think Sorin's earned his place in this archetype. Otherwise, Path of Peril, excellent. There was maybe one time against mono green where it was awkward trying to sequence it because it got like a troll down pretty early, but we had enough other answers for the troll that we were able to still get a really nice Path of Peril out there. I didn't actually cast it for its cleave cost once in these games, but in that last game against mono white, that was probably what I was going to do if they didn't scoop it up. Because it doesn't get the elite spellbinder, and the elite spellbinder managed to set this card back, because you do have to respect it. But honestly, even on 5 against mono white, Path of Peril's non-cleaved side is still really good. So I am very happy with how Path of Peril performed here. Meathook Massacre was a win con in one place. That card we've seen a lot of decks play and do really well with. Continue to be happy with it. Vanishing Verse, still love it. Otherwise, there was not a lot to complain about in this deck. I went 6 for 6. Professor of Symbology feels a little weak, but having a 1-drop into 2-drop that can both learn is still good. I don't necessarily know off the top of my head what I would put here, other than maybe a Skullport Merchant, but even then, I think this particular deck wants to hit environmental sciences especially often enough that the professor is still pretty solid. Otherwise, that's Black-White Edgar. I am shocked with how well this performed in Diamond. I had only recently gotten to Diamond 4, and so I went from having just hit Diamond this morning to Diamond 3 straight through without losing a single game, using just this deck. And so give it a shot. It's a lot of fun, and it's going to hopefully just continue to get better as we see more and more value oriented black cards getting played, because they're constantly getting printed in different sets. So keep your eyes out for ways to upgrade this one. Anyway, that's been it for our trip into the arena for this week. I'm Marshall. It's been a pleasure as always. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Give it a sub if you loved it. And either way, I'll see you next week. Bye.